Hello, Applied English. Time for yet another virtual day. Not my favorite thing in the world either, but we're going to make lemonade out of lemons and continue forward here. Today's lesson agenda is basically the same as what we'll do tomorrow, whether we're in person or virtual, and it's just wrapping up our essay for the Acorn People. It is a virtual day, as you guys know. If you haven't taken a moment to pray for your learning yet, I would encourage you to maybe pause this video and say a quick prayer. And then we'll continue with a demonstration on how to finish your essay today. Alright, I hope that was a fair amount of time for prayer, or for pausing in prayer, I should say. Let's take a look at this video that you guys are watching right now. One thing I would bring up, too, is that I do want you to take some time today to continue typing your Acorn People essay in WordOnline. It is not due until the end of Sunday, so if we're back in person tomorrow, we can certainly spend our time in class continuing the typing as well. Otherwise, you have this whole long weekend to get your essay cranked out, so we can move on to something new on Monday. I will remind you to refer back to last week's virtual lessons if you've fallen behind. So if you are really struggling with your outline, for instance, or if you don't remember how to start typing your essay, all of that is in last week's virtual lessons, which I'll show you how to access right now. Once again, finishing your essay video is what you're watching now. We'll take a look at the revising and editing checklist and how to turn in your essay later in this video. We're going to go back a little bit here. Week of February 13th was last week. This is current week, so going back a little bit here. Once again, if you've fallen behind on how to set up your essay, you may want to take a look back at last week. I know it was a crazy week with all kinds of virtual days, but you can kind of check it there. As you can see, on Monday, we began the pre-writing. That's when we did thesis writing. Wednesday is when we set up Acorn People essay drafts in WordOnline, and then Friday is when I finished my outline, and I put my example outline there for you too. So you can always go back and reference these if you need to catch up today. Otherwise, this video will demonstrate how to finish typing your essay. I have pulled up two documents here. I've got my outline. My outline's complete, and this example you can find in Schoology as well if you need to look at a model for your outline. And then I also have my draft that I started up last Wednesday. So again, I've already formatted my draft. I did my heading, I did my title, my spacing is correct, my font size is correct, and it looks like I have my introduction done. Let me double check that real quick. Imagine a serious ex-military man. He is a bit intimidating, and he makes people around him just a bit nervous. A character like this exists in the novel The Acorn People by Ron Jones. His name is Mr. Bradshaw, and he is the administrator of Camp Wigan, where the story takes place. Mr. Bradshaw is stern, orderly, and distant. Yep, so my introduction is correct, and it looks like I've done my first topic sentence too. What I am going to do is, because I already have my outline cranked out in complete sentences for the most part, I can just copy-paste from my outline into my essay. I know it's a bit slower of a process for you since you handwrote your outlines, but the process is the same. Going to take what I've already written and simply throw it into my essay in complete sentences. I'll do it slowly for my first body paragraph, and then I'll speed through the rest of it, so you guys can kind of see the whole process too. I'm lazy, so I'm just going to copy-paste my whole body paragraph. Control-C. Control-V is paste. The format's going to be really weird here, and I'll have to change my font again, but I'm just going to get rid of the extra stuff. So I actually don't need this bit right here. And I can just pop my evidence right there. Put my commentary in there too. And my conclusion sentence. And I forgot to hit tab to indent. I'll hit tab. And I might as well just make my font all the same. Times New Roman. And then I like 12 point. First body paragraph done, as we can see there. There we go. So I've got my first two paragraphs done. I'm going to speed up the rest of this part of the video where I'm cranking out the rest of my essay, so enjoy the battle music as I do that. And then from there I'll also demonstrate how to edit and turn this thing in once I'm done. Sorry if there's a little weird jump there between finishing the essay and continuing right here. Took me a minute to wrap up my conclusion because I gave myself a lot of notes in my outline to do that. If that process seemed really fast to you, it's because it was. I did a lot of the heavy lifting for my essay while I was outlining. I just had to wrap up a couple of spots that needed explanation as I was drafting, and now it's time to edit my work. You'll notice I'm at a page and a half, which is good. A page and a half, almost 2 pages. That's a good length for this particular essay. All that remains is to proofread it before I turn it in. One thing I like to do is proofread out loud. So in a moment, I'll read just a paragraph or so out loud just to make sure everything looks right. But I do want to show you a tool in Schoology here. In today's lesson folder, you will see Revising and Editing Checklist Applied English. AE, that's what it stands for. There it is. Now this checklist is pretty extensive. It's more or less just a series of questions you can ask yourself to make sure that your essay has everything that it needs. The first part is revising, and then you'll see a Roman numeral 2 for editing. Revising is for making sure all the ideas are there. So for instance, does your introduction have all of its parts? Body paragraphs looking good, conclusion from there. Whole essay revision would be things like, do you have an MLA heading and a title? Is your font looking right? Is your text double-spaced? Those are all good things to check for as you're wrapping up your essay. I should note there might be a number of you who aren't ready to do this step today, and that's okay. I hope that we can be in class tomorrow to do this step too, and you do have the whole long weekend to make sure your essay is done. Editing would be things like checking for spelling, punctuation, run-on sentences, sentence fragments, and then agreement would be the last thing to look for as well. I won't be using this checklist for myself right at the moment because that would take forever, but I do want to give my essay a quick proofread just to make sure it sounds right. I'm more or less listening to hear if there's anything that's unclear or doesn't make much sense. I've already done my introduction, which I'm happy with. I don't think there's any grammatical errors in there. Let's look at my body. First of all, Mr. Bradshaw is a very stern character. On page 24, the narrator states, notice that I did page numbers. I do have to do that for any direct quotes that I used. He administered the camp like a Mandarin warlord. When Ron makes this comparison, he means that Mr. Bradshaw is very serious and strict. On that same page, Ron explains the tight schedule Mr. Bradshaw forced the camp to follow. The former army man does not seem to care about the kids having fun at camp because he himself is so stern. It is because of Mr. Bradshaw's seriousness that he is also an incredibly orderly man. In addition, Mr. Bradshaw is quite orderly. This is most evident in the chapter titled Day 7. I used a chapter title because I paraphrase here. In this section of the book, Mr. Bradshaw first requires the campers to create labels for every object in camp, as well as name tags for each person. Oh, they think that name tags is 2 words. I'm going to ignore that for now. That chapter also finishes with Mr. Bradshaw forcing everyone to watch a water safety video after dinner. The reason why Mr. Bradshaw chooses these activities is because of his desire for order. He wants the kids to categorize everything and everyone, hence the labels. Beyond that, he thinks the water safety video would be a fun treat for the campers, which shows how out of touch he is with them. In fact, Mr. Bradshaw's orderly nature is not the only way in which he is distant from the rest of the characters. I think the only thing I don't like about that paragraph is I use his name a lot. You know what? I'm going to change this one to he. In this section of the book, he first requires the campers, yeah. And then the rest of them are fine. I just had to change out a Mr. Bradshaw in there because I used his name so much in the same paragraph. Last body. Lastly, Mr. Bradshaw is a distant person in general. One day after the labels and water safety video, Ron writes. I forgot a comma there. There we go. Even Mr. Bradshaw was missing. He was off on another fundraising junket. Notice that I cited my page number just in parentheses here. That's fine. I don't have to write PG, just the number is right there. Period goes after the parentheses. In his busyness as a camp administrator, Mr. Bradshaw constantly comes in and out of the story. He never stays at Camp Wigan long enough to connect with his counselors or the campers. He is not only physically separated from the rest of the characters, but emotionally distant from them as well. Among his other traits, this is the main reason why Mr. Bradshaw is not a great leader at Camp Wigan. Happy with that paragraph, too. In Ron Jones' The Acorn People, Mr. Bradshaw is stern, orderly, and distant. His seriousness plays out in the incredibly strict way he runs Camp Wigan. Also, he is distant in the way that he leaves camp regularly and does not interact much with his counselors or campers. Mr. Bradshaw himself does not do much to help the disabled children in the story, but thankfully Ron and his fellow counselors are able to give the kids the experience of a lifetime. I'm happy with that. That was a very fast proofread, but one thing I would note is that writing essays comes pretty naturally for me now that I've written a couple of hundred in my lifetime. I would encourage you to take your time as you proofread, use the checklist as a guide. I went rather quickly because I'm on video and want to keep it short-ish for you guys too. So my essay is done. I've titled it Acorn People Essay Draft so I can find it easily. The last thing I want to demonstrate is how to turn it in once you're ready. You don't have to do this today, but once you're ready, you'll see Acorn People Essay here. So my view is a little bit different from what yours would be. I'm actually going to see if I can view it as a student and see if I can demonstrate better that way. I'll just be Corey here for a second. Thanks, Corey. Yeah, so this is what the student view looks like right here. Upload submission is the blue button you want. And then from there, you're going to click Cloud Submission. The cloud that we use is OneDrive, so this allows us to pull up your file storage through the school. I don't know if it'll make me sign in as Corey or not. Or if it'll sign me in as me. It signed me in as me. So I'm not actually going to upload something for Corey right now, but once you find your file, you may actually just want to click Modified, Newer to Older. Like there's my essay draft, I could click it, and then basically any blue buttons that Turn It In tells you to click, be sure to click those as you move forward so you can submit your essay draft. Again, not going to do that for Corey because I don't want to confuse him or my computer, but that is the process for submitting your essay once you are ready. Again, you don't have to do this today. The full essay is not due until the end of Sunday. I've jabbered enough. I hope to see you guys in class tomorrow, but we'll see what the snow has to say about that. If we are virtual tomorrow, it's going to be the same exact lesson that we have here. You can watch the video if you need, complete your essay if you need. I do want to be done with essay writing this week so that we can move on with another grammar unit starting on Monday. Peace.